That puts it as a juvenile, probably a year or so old, maybe just over a year old, I would think. They have to use calf, I'm guessing. So, pretty much 3 times that length. And then newborn at about 4.5 meters. So that's a calf from last year, I guess.
Yeah. I'm Cal Major, I'm a vet, I'm an advocate for our ocean and for nature, and a filmmaker, and I'm an adventurer. So 2021, I was stand-up paddleboarding around the whole of Scotland, and I'd come round to the east coast. I woke up to beautiful weather, the water was really still and calm, which is amazing for stand-up paddleboarding, and paddling from this incredible little tiny harbour past amazing rock stacks, rock formations, incredible heritage places like Wallago Steps, past bird colonies, puffin colonies, guillemots.
This is one of the most amazing paddles I've ever done. There are birds everywhere.
It was a really, really special day on the water. It felt really peaceful and calm, and I felt like I was just surrounded by amazing nature everywhere. I couldn't have imagined the contrast between the morning to what I was about to find in the afternoon. So I saw something floating on the horizon. I couldn't really see what it was because it was about a mile away, so decided to paddle out to have a little look at it. As I got closer and closer to this big floaty white thing, the water started getting really oily and there were flocks of fulmar all around it. The smell was horrendous. As I got closer, I realised that it was a dead whale. It took a moment to register what it was that we'd found. I was still convinced it was going to be a big block of plastic. That's what I'd hoped we'd found, not a dead whale. When we did come across it, it was almost this kind of adrenaline-fueled reaction of, okay, this is what we found. And so we went into this very kind of clinical mode of, we need to capture this because this is really important. And at that point in time, I had to really suppress what I was feeling and just get everything we possibly could captured on cameras. We didn't immediately know why it had died. We could see that it had been dead for at least a few days. It was starting to decompose and it was really smelly. And so I paddled quite close to it, which was quite distressing, and found ropes wrapped around its pectoral fins, and then I followed those ropes back to its tail, where I put a GoPro in the water and found that the tail stalk was completely entangled with ropes, and there was actually a rope leading down towards the seabed with lobster pots attached to it.
This is really tragic to see. These are really rare animals in these waters. It's very, very highly likely that this whale has died as a result of entanglement in fishing gear. This is absolutely devastating.
It wasn't just the finding a dead body. I'm quite used to seeing dead animals as a vet, and that sounds really morbid, but I'm quite used to seeing a dead animal. It was more the implications, the fact that this was a juvenile whale, this was a potentially 1-year-old humpback whale who had not only died, but potentially suffered quite significantly as a result of that entanglement. I didn't really have time to process any of this until I got back to land, and I paddled back into land. I'd been out on the water for something like 8 hours that day. I was quite exhausted and the adrenaline was just starting to crash from having found the whale. And James put the camera on me and said, how are you feeling? And I literally had no words. I felt really devastated, but I also felt angry. I felt frustrated that this huge, important animal, this juvenile animal, had managed to succumb to human activity in that way, that it just felt so wrong, and I felt so hopeless and helpless because what could I do about that?
Humpback calf floating upside down And the thing is now, what do I translate that to? What do I do? How do I turn that into action? Oh dear.
My instant reaction was definitely one of despair and feeling like I really needed to do something about this because this was such an injustice. It's so unfair that a massive cetacean that belongs in our ocean cannot swim through our waters. I think one of the reasons I was most affected by this is that humpbacks, they live in family groups, the calves stay with their mothers until they're about a year old. They have this close family bond. I think as well with whales, we really relate to them. They're such intelligent creatures and we're learning so much more all the time about their culture, about their family groups, about the way they communicate with each other. You know, you look into the eye of a cetacean, of a whale or a dolphin, and you feel like you're looking into a creature that's very similar to you. The idea that a calf could have been lost amongst this group of humpbacks and the implications for them as well and the impact that it might have had on them felt quite painful. Over the next 18 months between the incident happening and now, that kind of anger and frustration has definitely morphed and evolved, and I feel differently about it now, having spoken to lots and lots of people who are working in this field and learning about the hard work that's going on to help mitigate this and the measures that are out there which are being trialled to help stop cetacean entanglement in Scottish waters. It's also really important to remember that entanglement in fishing gear is never intentional, and actually it can be quite distressing for fishers who find animals entangled in their gear. So I think it's really essential that we don't actually demonise a particular group of people, but work with them to help solve these issues. And that is exactly what the creel fishermen in Scotland are trying to do, is trying to solve these issues. Looking back, it still affects me to this day, but I think it's changed from having been a really devastating thing to experience to having had quite a positive impact on my understanding of entanglement. You hear about entanglement, but it's so intangible. It's such this kind of out there in the ocean issue, and then seeing it yourself, seeing this enormous animal having succumbed to entanglement is very, very different seeing it actually for yourself. So it's estimated that globally 300,000 whales and dolphins every year are caught up in fishing gear, but we have no real idea of what the actual numbers are, because for every animal that we find caught up in fishing gear, there could be another one that's out to sea, lost out to sea, or that's sunk to the bottom of the sea. We need to keep working hard and to keep coming together and supporting those at the forefront of this work so that we can find solutions as fast as possible. Without hope, we have no reason to keep moving forward and to keep making positive change. But at the same time, the issues facing our seas are so enormous. And I found that quite difficult when telling this story, to make sure that it wasn't just a tale of hopelessness and of devastation, but that actually we take note of the good stuff that's happening and the positive movements forward to help create safer oceans for cetaceans.